Appreciate you streaming into the deep end here on Birds 365 with your Mac and Mac guys. Got a nice addition to the mix today. You catch them after every single Eagle game here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel, live from Oceans Casino. Mike Missinelli jumps in on Birds 365. Mikey Miss, you're undefeated.
I'm undefeated?
Yes, much like the Eagles. You in the post-game show were undefeated. 8 times the Eagles have played, and 8 times it's been thrown down to you, and you're talking about an Eagle win.
Yeah, there you go. And you know, here's the funny thing. Like, what we have a post-game show. It feels like there's been 2 weeks between our last post-game show. I hate these Thursday to Monday night situations.
I hate Thursday football in general. Yeah. I hate Thursday football. Well, night football too, Mike. I mean, night footballs. I want every game at 1 o'clock Sunday, but that's a typical.
I'm the same way, John. I you know, it's unnatural.
Yes, it is unnatural. And the mini bye, you're coming on. Let's talk. It's not a big deal, but I think the Eagles bye was too early this season, and then right after it to have this mini bye. And now, once the Washington game is here, it's going to be a grind. Now, you can talk about this team's had a lot of luck. The stars have aligned. Look at the next 2 teams on the schedule. You got an absolute abject disaster in Washington. You see what's going on there. And then Indianapolis might be worse. Jim Irsay might be, from a football standpoint, not off the field, but from a football standpoint, what the heck is Jim Irsay doing? This is working out well for the Eagles.
It really is. And here's the thing. They don't, listen, these teams, they're better than. But we've seen so many Eagle teams that they don't seize the moment to be better than the team that they're supposed to be better than, and they fall. This team shows no signs of doing that. They'll beat the brains in of bad teams. And there's no, I keep calling it slippage. They're anti-slippage. Now, are the Commanders going to beat them? No, they don't have enough strength to beat the Eagles, score enough points to beat them. The Colts, you're right, are a mess. So we always look at the conversation has become after a game, where's the loss? And you go down the list and you go, well, they're going to be 12-0 by then. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah, it really is.
So let me ask you this. Because I like your analogy of there's no room for slippage. They just don't have those type of traits that we've seen in Eagle teams in years gone by. What's the main reason for the fact that they don't have it?
I think they're well coached. I think Sirianni's really set a template for them. B, the quarterback. I mean, the quarterback has been phenomenal. And when they need a drive to score, they do. In almost every game, you can look at the other team closes the gap. I mean, stays close. And they go, okay, well, now we need a drive for a touchdown. The same thing happened against the Texans. And I know the Texans stink, but they got to 21-17. And it was like, okay, boom, time for a drive. And they score. And this is an Eagles team that I've rarely seen in watching the Eagles all these years, where they're able to do whatever they need to do. And, it's funny because Jonathan Gannon is a guy that everybody wants to pick on, especially my partner, Seth. But like and they don't stop the run, and I get it. And they use the 5-man front, but they use fewer people in the box than a lot of teams in the NFL, and it never hurts them. They're not that great against the run. It doesn't hurt them because they rely on their back end to make plays, and they make those plays. A lot of it is the dilution of competition. I get it. And I'm curious to see how they're going to fare against a team that will really go toe-to-toe with them. But this personality of this team is different than I've seen many Eagles teams. And you have to go to the quarterback playing that kind of consistent ball.
Well, Mike, I don't want to pick on Seth, but why not? I can't pick on Seth physically, so I'll pick on him verbally. What the heck is Seth? You're there. I only get to talk to Seth, obviously virtually, but you're there every week on the post-game show. What the heck does Seth want contextually? I always talk about context. You can only care. It's not about the 2022 Eagles against the Seth Joyner, Reggie White Eagles. It's about the 2022 Eagles versus the rest of the league. They're third in defense. They're fourth in scoring defense. They're top 5 in everything. If you look at the passing game, which is most important, they're first in NFL opponent passer rating. So in other words, the passer rating against the Eagles is 68. They're tied for second in passes defense. They're third in passing yards allowed per game. They're fourth in completion percentage allowed. What the heck else can they do? I just don't get it.
John, it's tough to shed a brand. And Seth's brand, you know what Seth's brand is. Seth's brand is this ultra aggressive guy. But I gotta tell you, he was docile, a little more docile last week, because he's been getting his ass kicked on social media, and I think it's wearing him down a little bit. So sometimes I just give him the side eye, like, really? I know he doesn't like Jonathan Gannon, but you have to put everything in context. Like, they are they're in leads all the time. So like that run number, it probably is, they're just trying to prevent a big play. So the run is happening for the other team. I get it. They're putting fewer people in the box. He's relying on he's relying on a 4-man front on big downs, on third downs, and his defense has been, I think, fairly solid. Even though it's and look at the sack totals. Yeah. Well, if they were aggressive, would they have 40 sacks? They've got 26 sacks and a 28.4% pressure rate, which is not bad. So I can't
all
find
top 10. That's all top 10. I think they're 7th in sacks, maybe, or tied. I think they're tied.
Yeah, they're top 10. Yeah, without the ultra aggression that Seth preaches, and they're undefeated. So, like, there's a time, I think, to complain about a lack of aggression. I don't think it's now.
No.
Nor do I. Mike, with the fact that the Eagles are 8-0, the quarterback is playing well, defense is doing this, kind of under the radar. Miles Sanders is having a really nice year. They're not leaning on him, like you just pointed out. When they really need a touchdown, when the other team gets close, they go, okay, now we're just going to have to run it down your throats. And they do just that, and it's usually Miles as the main guy. How good a season is Miles?
He's been fantastic. The key to him is staying healthy, and so far he looks like he's passing that test. He's been really spry. It's funny because fans were saying, well, you need to add that running back. You need to get Kareem Hunt, or you need to add another name running back. But as long as he stays healthy, they're fine. Now, if he gets nicked up a little bit, they might be in some trouble. But yeah, he's been solid. And that's that Penn State pedigree, Jody. You know that. It's the Penn State pedigree. He sees what Saquon's doing, and he goes, this is a flashback for me, because I used to watch Saquon in practice every day do that. So I got to keep up my end of the bargain. Yeah. That's my pro Penn State message for the day.
Miles has
one thing.
Played well.
Sorry, John. The one thing Miles can say, he's got more touchdowns than Saquon. Saquon may have more yards, and he may have more big flashy plays, but Miles, who took the goose egg last year getting into the end zone, has more touchdowns this year.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some kind of friendly company. You sit behind a guy for 3 years in college, and I'm sure you look at the guy. I'm sure you're friends with him, but I'm sure you look at the guy and say, I want to do something like that in the NFL. I'm capable. I was the higher recruited player, for crying out loud. He got all the glory.
Yeah. Well, I think Miles has a little more help than Saquon. So I think Saquon's got a lot heavier lifting to do on a week in and week out basis. But that's not Miles's fault.
No. Saquon's back to being a beast, by the way, which is
yeah. He's having a great season, and he is the AJ Brown of their offense, is what I would call it. That's AJ Brown on the Eagles offense. And he, to me, Mike, has been the final domino, the final piece of the puzzle, whatever you want to call it. If you look at the Eagles offense this season versus the Eagles offense last season, now Jalen Hurts deserves a ton of credit for his improvement. But as far as the guy who has sort of put everybody into the right place, like Devontae Smith is the best example, because he's a great number 2 receiver. I'm not sure he's ready to be a legit number 1, and that's what he was last year. Wes Watkins isn't a number 2, but he's pretty good number 3. He can run by people, never gets a double team, occasionally makes a big play, not a ton of traffic. And Dallas Goedert has settled in nicely as sort of that second guy in the passing game.
Mhm.
And he might be one of the most underrated players in the NFL. From your perspective, how important has A.J. Brown been to this offense?
He's been he has kind of like shaped it perfectly. Making Devontae Smith, because it goes back and forth. If you try to stop A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith usually gets his catches. But and Goddard's the X factor. I mean, how many times we targeted last week? 9, and he made 8 snares.
8 of 9.
Yeah. So I mean, what's stoppable on what they're doing? Combine that with the fact that Hurts is getting rid of the ball like almost a second faster than he did last year. And that's because guys are open. And how on earth is anybody in that league stopping A.J. Brown's slant? It's just you can't do it. So if that play is always going to be there, then that's a pretty good start to your offense. There's going to be an interesting dynamic here because Washington's rate allowed of wide receivers is like 99.9. So they're bad that way, but they do get to the passer. So something's got to give here. They're going to get to Hurts. He's been sacked a few times the last couple of weeks. But even if they get to a quarterback, it doesn't seem that they can stop the throws down the field. So this will be another romp. It's boring.
Yeah, it is. You're right. It's tough to cover a team that's this good. It is boring.
Oh, come on, you guys. As soon as you say that, you're going to have a competitive game.
No, see, this is the thing.
Everybody
says that.
Yeah,
I
can't jinx the freaking. There's no such thing as a jinx. I don't care about jinx.
I totally agree with you. I get pounded for making declarative statements on this team, and people go, "Don't jinx them, Mike."
Yeah,
you can't jinx a good team. The team has established what they are. Bad teams can't beat them. They have taken it up to another notch where they don't slip to the point that we've seen other Eagle teams slip, where they just come into a game and you don't recognize the same team. This team's the same all the time.
Yeah,
they are pretty damn consistent. You are correct about that. Speaking of taking it to another level, is it I don't want to call it a foregone conclusion, but how possible is it that this team, and I know we're going down the road, we got a whole bunch of important games to play between now and when this could kick in, but is Shane Steichen out the door here in Philadelphia?
As far as getting another job?
Getting a head coaching job with another team in the National Football League next year.
All these young dudes are on the top of everybody's list, right? Gannon's going to be probably, and Steichen.
Not Jim Irsay's, but mostly.
I was going to say, if Jim Irsay's listening, he's going to be a better head coach than Jeff Saturday. I can pretty much assure you that.
If you're in your late 30s and you look the part and you have a little success, all of a sudden you shoot up like a rocket in this league anymore for a head coaching job. Yeah. So maybe. Does he have enough of a resume? Maybe he needs another year, but I'll worry about that later.
Yeah.
They're going to lose guys most likely, but what are you going to do about that? It's what the NFL is.
Yeah, you're right. I mean,
poach league.
You look at Andy Reid's 1999 coaching staff. It's amazing how many head coaches were on that staff. You look at Doug Peterson. We just saw Frank Reich. John DiFilippo, by the way, our buddy, just got a head coaching job in the USFL. The USFL, I think the New Orleans Breakers. But anyway, congratulations to John. Jonathan Gannon might get a head coaching job. Jody mentioned Shane Steichen. JG had 3 interviews last year for head coaching jobs. I mean, you're right, Mike. There's going to be change. So, how big is the sense of urgency to take advantage of this window? Not only are you going to have coaching staff changes, but all of a sudden you're looking down in front, and Jalen Hurts extension talk starts after this season. Yeah. How important is to take advantage of this particular window?
You mean to win the whole thing?
Yeah, you got to seize it, man.
I can't see where they won't be there. I mean, they're going to get that overall number 1 seed. They're going to be able to define themselves. Buffalo looks like they're leaking a little bit, and the situation with the quarterback is the Chiefs are still going to be, can they beat the Chiefs now? Do you look at the Eagles as a better team than the Chiefs? It's arguable.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
and does it set up this that they establish themselves as the best team? They go into the playoffs with a 15-2 record, and somehow they lose
that'll be tough.
in the
That'll be
NFC
tough.
title game. That probably would be a disaster to this fan base, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we've seen that happen before with teams that we thought were going to get to the next level. But you know, I don't know. I mean, who can beat them in the NFC, in the NFC Championship game? So I think the favorite is that they get to the Super Bowl, and then we'll decide whether they can beat either the Bills or the Chiefs.
Mikey, as a many-year talk show host in this town, I know you've had these conversations before, and some people don't want to have them at this time, but I don't care. It's good sports talk conversation stuff. And that's Howie Roseman and the work he's got to do over the next month or so. Howie has gotten a lot of credit for being able to extend key players and not allowing them to reach free agency. Part of the Eagles' core last year, Goddard and Mailata and Maddox did a great job. Oh, they got practically their entire defense's contracts are up at the end of this year, and this defense has been very good. You're going to want to keep it intact as much as you can, but you can only sign so many guys. Of all the Eagles who are free agents at the end of this year, who's the guy you're targeting if you're Howie Roseman? You think you can get a deal done with?
To re-sign or to clip?
To re-sign, to get an extension done.
Give me a list of those guys right quick.
Real quickly. Fletcher, Hargrave, both linebackers, both safeties, James Bradbury. That's a whole bunch of Brandon Graham will probably come back on a team-friendly deal, but he's a free agent at the end of this year. And you got your boy Miles on the other side on the offense. That's like 8 starters out of the 22 here are going to be able to walk away at the end of the year. You can't keep them all.
He's going to be crafty. I mean, I don't know. Fletcher Cox seems to be the guy that might, not be resigned.
Yeah.
That would be first. I mean, Hargrave's having a great year. I don't know that you could justify it at that point. The linebackers, they always think they're disposable. They got Nakobe Dean in the hole. They got Jordan Davis up front in the hole. So Graham will go. Be interesting to see what they do. Sweat is not a free agent, right?
No, he's one of the few.
Yeah,
no,
so,
him and Abante signed last year, so
it's a really good question.
Defense,
I mean, he's going to have to be crafty, but there are going to be some guys that have to go, and he's going to have to replace them. What did you guys think of the Howie? I was trying to figure out that Howie rant at those fans was real or sarcastic.
Yeah, I think it was sarcastic, but Howie
between you and me, guys, I think it started sarcastic and got real.
Yeah,
I think he was just joking to begin with. Then he got carried away.
I think he gets a little ticked off that he's not appreciated, and I think that triggered it.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So yeah, that was venomous.
Yeah,
he's strange.
Howie likes to crack jokes as well. So I don't know if you guys know, but he wants to be a stand-up comedian, but nothing ever lands, man. No. He's got to give it up. And I think he's trying to be, folksy, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, all of a sudden it escalates.
Delivering the F-bomb like that, John, is a way to bond with Philadelphia Eagle fans.
Yeah,
though.
well, that's true.
I think he figured that out.
Yeah. And by the way, he's right. And he's one of the better GMs in this league. And yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't know. He's not a football guy. He's been around for so long. You have that narrative. Obviously, you had Howie 2.0, which usually doesn't happen. Somebody's disposed and brought back. That never happened. So he's been around for so long. But I think people have failed to recognize he should get credit for evolving. He has turned into one of the better GMs in the league.
I've never been that big of a, because he's, for what he's brought, he's taken away some things that I thought were really inappropriate. But I got to sit back and give him credit now for how they put this team together. I was worried about all these moving parts. They just blended right away, and they haven't missed a beat. You watch a game now and you go, they're in charge. They're not going to lose. They can't. Even when a team stays close, you go, they're not going to lose. I think that's been the biggest mindset change for Eagle fans, that they actually look at this team and go, It's not going to happen like before. So you'll get the occasional, oh my God, how could they not be burying this team? But for the most part, everybody is really comfortable and confident on what this team is going to do from game to game.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, we brought this up on the show yesterday. And again, kind of putting the cart before the horse, but that's what we do. They're 8-0 now. They're going to be favorite the next 2 weeks, the next 4 weeks, the next 6 weeks. If they can continue to win games that they're supposed to win and they don't have that stub your toe game, which Eagle teams previous did, that this is a different iteration and just a different built team, they get to 15-0. And they were still undefeated. And they've already put away the NFC East. And they've already put away the NFC. No one can catch them with 2 weeks to go. And they still got 2 games to play. We've seen the Eagles. They're very interested in protecting their players. We saw it in preseason. Guys not playing. Get them off the field. We don't want to have an injury. That's been their modus operandi. If they're sitting at 15-0 and they got a chance to be the first ever 17-0 team in the National Football League, who's going to be out there on the field playing for the Eagles game 16, week 17?
That is a great question. And because if you try to go for the 17-0 and something bad happens like an injury, you'll never be able to live it down.
Yeah.
Now, the mindset today, it's almost like pulling a starter out of a no-hitter. It doesn't matter anymore that he completes the no-hitter. So I don't know. Has that filtered down to football? I personally, football to me is such a dangerous game that I wouldn't care about the 17-0. I know it's the landmark achievement. People will be talking about your team forever, but I'd be so afraid to mess it up for my Super Bowl hopes that I would be really cautious and safe about it.
Yeah. Howie Roseman sends his thanks because I agree with you. That will be the organizational decision, not necessarily the coaching decision.
Yeah.
And I think you're dead on.
Just think about it, though. Just think, how this town reacts to that. They leave a guy in the fourth quarter and he gets hurt, and people are just out.
Yeah, Jody, you're killing JG for not playing to Kobe Dean in the fourth quarter of a blowout. I mean, you can imagine,
right? So the coaching staff has shown its toughness that they want to do whatever it takes.
Yeah, they want to win. The coaching staff, you got to save them from themselves, because Mike is right. 17-0 doesn't matter. The ultimate goal is bigger than that. Despite the history, despite what that would mean in football lore, so to speak, the goal is the Super Bowl. So, what is the easiest path? What is the best path to win the Super Bowl? I agree with Mike, but I want to go back to something you said that was interesting. All the moving parts, and I want to take this around the NFL a little bit with you, Mike, because you guys both know. You've been through this. You and I have talked about it, Jody. There's this mentality. This isn't like baseball. It's not a plug-and-play league. You all heard that for years with these old-school GMs. We can't bring somebody in mid-season and do anything. Then I watched Christian McCaffrey. He's in San Francisco for 48 hours. He's getting a triple threat touchdown pass, running touchdown, a receiving touchdown. I watched TJ Hawkinson last week, 9 out of 9. We talked about Dallas Goedert, 8 out of 9. He had 9 targets. He was there for 10 minutes. He caught all 9 passes. And here, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, everybody's like, how could you get him up to speed? You get him right before the start of the regular season. He doesn't know the defense, blah, blah, blah. He leads the NFL in interceptions. Somebody going to admit football's not brain surgery? Maybe it's a little bit easier to get these guys up to speed.
Well, here's the counterpoint of that, John. All those guys are released from prison. When you get released from prison, all of a sudden you get freedom. Yeah. And your mindset completely changes. Imagine you're Christian McCaffrey and you're showing up in that dreadful scene. And you get this lift to go back to the 49ers where you play college football. It's like a surge of adrenaline. And so you're more mentally sharp. But I hear your point. You can get guys assimilated pretty quickly in this league, even though there's all this complicated jargon that you have to learn and systems and all that kind of thing. If you have a good player and you keep him restricted to what he can handle early on, and you have that mindset where he's free from prison, you're probably going to get productivity out of him.
Mike, again, we get chided sometimes for nitpicking what's wrong with the Eagles. But we can just sit here and go, oh, they're great. They're 8-0. We never let that. All right, but who knows? They may stub their toe somewhere. One of the things Eagles haven't been good at this year, and again, they're 8-0, has been special teams. Their special teams just haven't made any plays. They haven't gotten burned by a big play either. But the other team always gets better field position they do when it's a series of punts back and forth. They had the chance to potentially address it at the trade deadline. They chose not to. Don't know I can be critical of that, but can you just coach that up on the fly? Can you get better at that by putting in more time and effort? Now the time and effort is limited by the CBA. Yes, I know that. But can they actually get better at special teams in the second half?
I mean, I guess they can get better and you can coach it up differently. And you have enough athletic guys to make a difference on special teams. I don't know what's that complicated about that. But you're right. They've by the way, that's another Seth peeve. Seth is
special teams.
He
beats up on his special teams
and special teams. He's always screaming, "How come these guys don't block it? Or how come guys don't shed block?" He's right about that. So that's better coaching, I think. So it's funny. We're sitting here. We're going, okay, special teams. And what else don't they do right?
Tackling is what I was going to say. Is the bigger
tackling.
issue.
They haven't tackled well. John, I think they were bored in that last game against the Texans. I think Dameon Pierce is a good player, but I think they weren't on edge, knowing that they were so much better than this team, and their tackling was sloppy, and their mindset was bad.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I'll say this. If I'm looking for that logical loss, and last one from me, at Mike Miss 25, follow Mike on Twitter, listen to his podcast, wherever you get all his podcasts, JAKIB Media post-game show, as you mentioned, Jody, undefeated. Maybe Mike Missinelli's the key to it all. The Eagles have never lost when he's doing the JAKIB Sports post-game show.
Exactly right.
I came back here in 2008 to that station. What happened that year?
Yeah.
It was a championship year.
Okay, there you go.
So there it is. We found the key to it all. But I don't know, to get to the key to it all, so Mike Missinelli has to fix this tackling issue, because the one game I look at is December 4th in Tennessee and Derrick Henry. That one scares me a little bit. I'm like, because I agree with the Eagles' philosophy. They have this give and take. They have decided it's more important to get the splash plays, to stop the passing game. What do you want? This box safety that wraps everybody up, or do you want the 5 interceptions from Chauncey Gardner-Johnson? Typically, I want the 5 interceptions in 8 games. But then Derrick Henry shows up on one given Sunday, and nobody is prepared to stop Derrick Henry on this team.
Are they going to give the ball to him 40 times, though?
They might.
25 is a minimum.
Is that
get over 30?
If he carries 40 times,
he's not going to.
Is that good enough to beat the Eagles?
Here's how I describe it, Mike. The margin of error is small, right? You got to play from the lead. You can't get from behind. So Tennessee takes the opening kickoff because the Eagles defer like they always defer, making Jody McDonald pull what hair he has left out of his head.
I agree with that, by the way. I don't understand why people defer all the time.
Yeah. So they take the ball, they go right down the field, maybe 15 plays, 80 yards. They take half of the first quarter off, and all of a sudden Tennessee's up 7-0. They can play from that advantage. They can play clock. They can keep the Eagles off the field as best as possible because nobody can tackle Derrick Henry. Is that the one game where we say, that might be styles make bites, right? You always hear that. Is that the one style that maybe on one given Sunday can beat this Eagles?
Yeah, we talked about that in our last post-game show, actually, John, that and we tied those two concepts together. They don't stop the run. But why don't they stop the run? Maybe they don't stop the run because they're ahead in games and they get a little bored and they don't want to give up the big play. So knowing that they're going to have to stop the run with this guy, will things be different? But you're right. I mean, that's certainly an advantage that Tennessee would have in an attempt to win that game. But here's the thing. Okay, they grind the ball down the field. They go up 7-0. Are the Eagles not going to score?
No,
Like
they're going to score.
That's the thing. They're going to come right back at them, I think, because they've come back right back at every team when any team scores first or early on them.
But all you got to do is shorten the game and keep that edge. So it might be 10-7. It might be 14. It might be 17-14 in the third quarter. As long as you're playing from that lead, there's a potential to trip them up because that's the one thing they don't do well. That would be my, I would still pick the Eagles in the game. I'll be on with you guys and Barzetta for the pregame show. I'm going to pick the Eagles, but I can see Tennessee.
Yeah, it's
I can
logical.
see the path.
It's logical to see that. I just go, they counter punch. It's good that they're going to shorten the game. It's good they're going to grind up the game. They get up 7-0. Eagles come back at 7-7. They get a little more time out. The Eagles come right back at them. So are Tennessee going to be able to stop the Eagles even though Henry is dominating the line of scrimmage? I don't know. We'll see. I haven't seen them slack. So
by the way,
I said, with that offense. How do you stop that kind of an offense?
Yeah, I don't know. I say all the time, who do you start game planning for? Who do you want to take away? I don't know. I guess AJ,
yeah. So
but then everybody else is
going to win is to believe that their defense is going to be able to stop the Eagles from scoring touchdowns.
Well, they stopped Patrick Mahomes. I mean, they lost the game, but that Patrick Mahomes threw 68 times and scored 20 points in an overtime game. That's not a bad defense either.
And some of his best plays was when he took off and ran the ball himself rather than the 60-some-odd throws he had. All right, so you guys last Thursday, McMahon was down in Houston. You were down at Oceans. I was at Citizens Bank Park watching the Phillies lose game 5, and I completely forgot the Eagle game started. So they put the Eagle game up on the scoreboard. I go, oh, shoot, they're losing 7-0 already. So now I got to get out the phone, and I got to track every single play. And you're right, Mike. They just went down the field and scored. All right, they gave up the touchdown. I'm ready to watch because I know if it's 7-0 and they're only 5 minutes in. Oh, guess what? Eagles won the coin toss and deferred, and Houston went right down the field. But you're right; they come right back. Even when I give a hard time to the coach for his decision as to whether to take the ball or not, they come back and top it anyway. I got good and bad news for you guys. Yeah, on Monday you got to work at a weird hour or whatever. By the way, what's the best place to Oceans for a nightcap, Mike? If the post game ends before you head on either up to the room or back to Philly, where do you go grab a quick?
There's a bar called NOLA right there on the casino
as in Aaron.
No, as in NOLA.
Yeah, as in Aaron Nola.
Think,
it's not his bar, but it's called NOLA. And it's a pretty good spot. By that time, I'm so they have a noodle house there, and I like to get some late night, but they closed the damn thing at a casino. They have a great noodle house. I'm a big fan of the casino noodle house.
Really?
Yeah, you can't do that, especially with an Eagles game. They got to keep that going.
Yeah, but we're on the air. It's like I look up, it's almost 3 a.m. But Joe Krause wants to go to the full 2.5 to 3 hours.
Oh yeah.
And I always go because I'm used to the live production where when it's over, and I go, Joe, nobody's really watching this at 2:30. And he says, yeah, but they'll watch it tomorrow. That's the streaming world,
Oh yeah. It's there forever.
And by the way, that was the toughest post-game show we ever had to do on Thursday, especially for me. I had one eye on the Eagles game. We had 2 TVs on. One eye was straight away with the Eagles game. The other was a side eye on the Phillies game. And I'm doing an Eagles post-game show, and I can't afford to miss anything that's going on in the Eagles game. But this game is over here. It's the World freaking Series.
Same thing. We're in Houston in the press box, and Kempski's got his iPad. We all have the Phillies game on his iPad. We're all watching that. And we got to pay attention to it was really difficult. It was
tough.
And by the way, after the game, everything was late because the Eagles were watching the World Series, and everybody's
that's right. We didn't get to you till late because they didn't come out late. And then I went to the game the next night with the no-hitter. When you see a no-hitter, you go, wow, probably a bad game to go to. But I look at it like that's history.
That's history.
I love
yeah.
baseball
That's history.
accomplishment. That was history. That no-hitter.
Wait a minute. We got Missinelli, the hypocrite. You just told me history doesn't matter. The Eagles don't need to worry about 17.
Yeah.
It's all about a championship, but a no-hitter history? No, that was a bad thing because the Phillies lost.
Although
Anyway.
it's not the same. We
exactly.
talked about, name the 4 pitchers 2 years from now that no-hit the Phillies in the World Series. People are going to have a difficult time with that. Whereas you say Don Larson.
Probably.
If I got to give you 4 names, I'm not going to be able to give you 4 names.
Well, get used to the world today, John, because that's the only time no-hitters will happen when there's 4 names.
They're all be combined no-hitters going forward. All right, here's the real good news for you guys. Since you don't have to work Sunday, you won't be down at Oceans, you won't be not till Monday night. Have you taken a look at the card we got for Sunday yet in the National Football League? It stinks. There's 9 games. Take away Thursday night, Eagles on Monday night, Sunday night. 9 games on Sunday afternoon, early window, late window. How many games have a winning team against a winning team? 1.
Really?
Vikings and Bills are the only game out of 9 games, Sunday either at 1 or at 4, that have 2 winning teams playing each other. That's awful because you got 4 teams on the bye and they're all above 500. So they took a bunch of the 500 teams out of the mix this week. Good luck having a good time watching football on Sunday.
I was looking at a game that I would like to place a few shekels on, and I had a hard time doing it. But I got to ask you, what the Giants only 4.5-point favorites at home against the Texans?
Nobody believes in the Giants, and I count myself in that, Mike. I don't believe in them. They're playing well.
Jody, is that a line telling me to go Texans?
Mike, I've been listening to you say the line's telling me something for 20 years. Oh, that line is screaming Texans. If you buy into it's too good to be true. Oh, yeah, that's screaming Houston Texans.
Yeah, it's the way that, I don't know.
Why you mentioned the big game, which is Minnesota Buffalo. I'm surprised that's even on the board. Josh Allen. Nobody knows if Josh Allen's going to play.
Yeah, and it's 3.5 right now.
Yeah.
Bills -3. So what are you telling me? Did they play the Vikings in that?
I'm telling you that the NFL is all about keeping your injuries under wraps these days. Nobody tells anybody anything until the very last minute. Roger Goodell's kind of loosened the reins on that one. The injury reports are complete BS every single week.
So you think Allen's going to play?
I don't think he is. I don't think he is going to play.
Well, so I got a bet with McMullen. He and I are on for $1. I say Allen's going to play. There's no way he's going to sit. It's awful loss unless his arm's falling off. He's going to play.
But Jody, here's my other theory. You remember my backup goalie theory, which may make the Bills to play. Yeah, backup goalie theory. When the backup comes in, everybody rallies around the backup. For one game.
Johnny Mack, I'm going to put the pressure on Mr. Nelly. Name the Bills' backup quarterback.
I don't even know who he is.
Yeah. You're going to bet him, but you can't even name him. What kind of crap is that?
It doesn't matter. It's the principle that matters.
No, but they have a very good backup quarterback, and it's a revenge game as well. Their backup is Case Keenum. Who used to be
It's Case Keenum.
The Vikings
there you go, Jody.
Starter.
That's a live backup.
Case Keenum is better off signing or asking for autographs out front. He did that earlier this year. He went into the crowd. People didn't even know he was Case Keenum up there in Buffalo. Good luck. Case Keenum's biggest game ever was when, McMullen?
Championship game here.
How'd that go for him?
It did not go well, but
there you go.
But you got to give Case Keenum credit for getting that team to the. I mean,
had a good year.
That's a pretty good year.
Don't look down your nose at the backup goalie theory, Jody.
Okay. All right. You want to back Case Keenum? Have at it, Mike. I'll pass on that.
I'll go $1. I'll go $1 with you. I'll take the Bills if Case Keenum plays.
All right.
Fair enough.
I think you're going to get that, Mike.
Great getting you on. We appreciate it. We'll give you a month to jump around to the other JAKIB shows, but then we're getting you right back here on Birds 365. And stay undefeated, buddy.
Yeah. You're the key to it all, Mike.
It's a lock this week, so at least we say that.
That's true. It is a lock this week.
Mike Missinelli from the JAKIB Media Eagles Post.